Hey guys, what's up? Time for another game theory, sort of a game player psychological sort of video, I guess, today. Remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, so like, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. So today is going to be about the difference between, there's this idea of playing to win, but what about players that play to lose? Because they fucking exist, dude. And are players that I should say maybe there's a difference between having an excuse or playing for the excuse, right? As like a coping mechanism. And I definitely noticed there are people that do this in the community, right? And I was thinking of this recently because again I've played online recently and I played Ryoko in Karno's Revenge recently, and a guy asked me if I was doing it to make fun of him or something. I forget what the word God, he fucking just said it recently. He was asking if I did it to make light of him or make fun of him. And I was like, no. I was just getting bored. And like that's just the truth. It wasn't like because Karna's Revenge is, I think, an interesting game. Maybe all games have these kind of characters where, and I just feel like Ryoko is definitely this character in Karna's Revenge where people will pick her as an excuse. So if they lose, they will always have an excuse. It's like, oh, well, I picked this character who quotation marks sucks. You know what I mean? Oh, you weren't really better than me. I so or so it's like I can only so it's like the potential outcome from the match is only positive for me. If I lose, I have an excuse while I lose. If I win, I'm the greatest player ever, which I always think is funny because Ryoko is like she can kill you what in like three throws. Yeah, she has trouble getting in, but she kills you in three throws. So like it's the game you die very fast. You know what I mean? I don't think you deserve a fucking pat on the back for winning with Ryoko. Ryoko also is one of the characters that can punish moves the most realistically in the game, despite the game having such spazzy moves. She has some of the most realistic punishes actually in certain circumstances. So I mean, I was like, I actually used to play Ryoko. I was like, if I get warmed up, I can play her. You know what I mean? So I just think she's kind of interesting. But again, the idea is some people you will see there will be a character in a video game that they will play so they have an excuse when they lose. And then if they win, they only, they suck their dick themselves. They jack themselves off. And that's what I'm talking about. There's a difference between having an excuse and playing for the excuse. And, for sure there are characters that are worse in games, characters that have bad matchups and everything like that. But I'm sure everyone has probably noticed. You have that friend or somebody that they will purposely play something so they have an excuse when they lose. Not because they like the character per se, maybe, but they just want that excuse. I also notice sometimes people, man, I've noticed watching people play sometimes where they will purposely verse somebody that is good. I've seen them do something, say, better versus a lesser player, but when they play a better player, let's say quotation marks, they do a less optimal combo. And it's like, dude, are you purposely doing something stupid? So if you lose to this better player, you now have an excuse why you lost. You beat the lesser player playing better. And of course, there's different levels of, mind games when you play. If we're talking about like a specific setup, sometimes you may like, oh, hey, there's so many different layers of a mind game when you're playing somebody that, oh, let's go back to playing simple. You know what I mean? And I've often said, for an excuse for me, you know what I mean? Or I guess it is, there's a difference between having an excuse and playing for the excuse. And to go to me for a second, I've always said one of my weaknesses as a player is I don't have that killer instinct. Of course, I'm sick, so you know what I mean. I can't practice a lot anyway, so I'm always kind of in that. Whenever I've played video games, I'm in that weird kind of middle ground of it takes a while for me to get warmed up because I don't play, but because of my hands and health, I can't play a long time anyway, right? So it's hard to find that middle ground of fingers being warmed up, getting ready for the game and playing, and actually being able to then play a lot. And if you've watched me play, I generally don't play for more than 10 minutes. 10, 15 minutes is generally what I usually play because, I get tired. And that's what happens. I had surgery on my hands, my body's fucked up. But even in tournaments, I've talked about, so I would generally play safe, right? Because I wasn't warmed up or anything like that, I would play in a way that I know is safe and will win more times than it will lose. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense, right? So, and that is like, there's a level of what you can do, a level of playing. Some tactics are effective on every level, on simple levels to higher levels. There are some sorts of like tactics and mind games, right? So I guess I kind of went off on a tangent, right? But of course, there's different levels of like mind games that you're doing, but sometimes you'll just see people, they will play purposely stupid, not a level of a mind game. They will purposely do stuff that's not even good, just so they have an excuse if they lose. They will purposely do a combo where they could have potentially killed the guy. They'll do a lesser combo, almost as like a coping mechanism that, oh well, you know what, I did the bad combo, so I lost. And again, Karma's Revenge is a funny game because Karma's Revenge has some cheap combos, and I see dudes sometimes, they play the quotation marks better people, and they purposely do a worse combo so they have an excuse if they lose to the better player. And it's like, what? Why? Right? Do you know what I mean? And other anecdotal evidence, whatever this is, and I've used this example before as well. Soul Calibur is an interesting game, right? And again, to go off on a little bit of a tangent, I always say it's so interesting to me that in the beginning of Soul Calibur 2, remember, Chicago was the best, right? And then I think then eventually Evo, there was like Flow versus Damn the Night, whatever in Europe. But people forget, during this time when Chicago had all the best players in America, there's that guy that Drac, right? Excuse me, Drac went down to Chicago and he went to that tournament and he beat everybody besides one guy in the tournament, and he got second, right? And this is when Chicago was considered the best in America. They had multiple of the best players in America. It was like H-Bomb, Fets, Flow, and I think someone else might have even made good, but they were all considered just that core group, like the best in America, right? They'd gone to Japan, they won tournaments, they were winning tournaments in America, and then again, eventually there's Evo, and Dan the Knight actually beat Flow, I think it was. Correct me if my history is wrong, but Drac went to Chicago and he was destroying everybody, and then in the finals he eventually lost to one person. I remember right after that they were salty. They're like, what the fuck, he just came out of nowhere, he beat everybody, you know what I mean? Besides one guy. We wanted another tournament because they're trying to get their win back. But that is just sort of like to add to this idea that Michigan actually had some good Soul Calibur players, right? And another guy that was good was a guy I knew, this other guy I knew. And he was actually ended up being, he was below Drac, right? He wasn't as good as Drac, but he was still good enough to win tournaments when Drac wasn't around in the area. And geez, even during, it was either Soul Calibur 4, maybe Soul Calibur 5, he was the best person, he was the #1 account online for that game for a long time. In Soul Calibur 4 or 5, again, I don't remember which one it was. But he had this kind of like insecurity about him because Drac had showed that Drac was the one that would win tournaments if they were both at it. He would start self-sabotaging himself at tournaments. He started going to tournaments and he would purposely get drunk and fucked up before tournaments. So now he had the excuse if he lost to a better player. Is that not weird? It was so crazy that I was like, dude, you're the #1 player online in this game right now. Why do you want to go get drunk before the tournament? And again, that's just another example. There are dudes that are fucking like this, that they have like lost before in tournaments, or they've lost to people that they thought they should have beat. So then after that, they start making excuses, right? Instead of having an excuse if they lose, if they have a worse character, if it's a bad matchup, they start only playing for the excuse as like a coping mechanism for their own skill, right? And I just thought that was interesting. I thought about it because I recently, I played this guy and he asked if I was purposely toying with him or something like that, or I'd purposely tried to make fun of him. And it's like, no, I don't think I don't play Ryoko for an excuse. Is there a potential excuse if you lose with her? I mean, yeah, she's not a good character, but I'm not one of those dudes, right? You know what I mean? I actually If you saw me playing these games 10 years ago, Jesus Christ, I can play pretty much all these characters if I get warmed up, right? You know what I mean? Like, I actually think the character's pretty cool. But you can definitely see, and Carnage Revenge is such a cliche game where, God, you got to listen to people talk about Carnage Revenge. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I play Ryoko. This is so purposely playing her for an excuse. It's like, do you get what I'm getting at, dude? And I think that exists in all parts of life, though, not even video games, right? Some people, they really, instead of having an excuse in life, they try to make an excuse for why they aren't good in life or why they failed in life. You know what I mean? And I always say, for me in real life, you know what I mean? Again, I don't even, any video game excuse I have for why, whatever, you know what I mean? I'm more than the excuse, right? I won tournaments while I was sick as fuck. I'm still destroying people online without playing, you know what I mean? Wonky controller, surgery on my hands, you know what I mean? And on that same token, though, you could say I have failed in health, right? Like, people, want to talk shit about video games, whatever, mad that I do all this stuff. But you know what the thing is? If you think about it, my main goal in life is health, right? It's always been to be the most healthy person I can be, right? And even look at my fitness goal. My fitness goal for what, 5 or 6 years has always been to gain 5 pounds of muscle. I've never done anything more than I did 5 or 6 years ago. I've not even gained 5 pounds of muscle in 5 or 6 years. I just physically cannot do it with my health. You know what I mean? There's just nothing I can do. And that is an excuse I have. But you can be sure it's not because of a lack of effort. I've been very fucking sick. Jesus Christ. I mean, that's one of the only reasons I fucking have randomly played online again. Because if, right after I got COVID and I've been, God, I'm still fucking sick from shit, and just regular health stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, well, guess I'm going to be stuck inside. I don't have a lot to do. I'm so fucking tired. May as well try to play a little bit, right? Just whatever. But fitness for me, I have an excuse for why I've not achieved what I've wanted to do. But I certainly have not tried to use the excuse purposefully, if that makes sense, right? I've tried to be more than an excuse, right? So I guess video games would be an example of like, I'm more than the excuse, right? Because I've showed that I can do stuff even with these excuses. Fitness, yeah, I'm definitely I look more healthy maybe most of the time than a regular sick person. Maybe I'm way more buffer than a regular person or a sick person. But if you get to like an actual fitness person, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, I think if you compare myself, if someone dedicated their lives to fitness for 5 years and they never gained a single pound of muscle like I have, you know what I mean? But what am I going to do? It's not like I haven't been trying. Do you know what I mean? I just can't physically do it. Anyway, that's kind of my psychological vlog of the day, I guess. The end.